All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Jill Nyhus, and I lead a teacher recruitment and retention practice here at Insight Education Group. And I'm so excited to see you all here today. Today, we're going to be talking about a very important component of the recruitment process, which is interviewing. And I will say in my work with districts across the country, this is one area that is one of the weaker things that's happening. It's pretty haphazard in most districts. Interviewing sits mostly with principals, and it's all over the map. So one of the things that we're going to try to do today is to try to learn together in this process of how to create a strong interview. Just to say, we have not figured it all out. There is an art and a science to interviewing. And it takes lots of practice. And so we have some brave souls who are being vulnerable and courageous today to demonstrate a couple interview processes. So before we begin, I would love for you to please tweet out, Insta, this event, Facebook. Please share out what you're learning. It's really important, I think, that this work around recruitment and retention we need to be sharing. I know that there's a little bit of a competitive edge, but most of us in this room are not competing necessarily with each other. We, at the end of the day, we're all looking for high quality educators who are going to be the best fits in our particular schools and districts. So in this session, we are going to be doing some new learning because, as you know, I love new learning. And this field is growing so fast, so quickly, that we cannot keep relying on what we've done for the last 50 years in education when it comes to recruiting. And in the last 5 years, literally, teacher recruitment has changed dramatically due to the supply and demand of teachers. Also, I would say the economy is a factor. You all have, those of you that were in the room yesterday, we know that we have a very competitive job market right now. We also know that candidates are looking for jobs in lots of different ways than they did 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. So we have to think strategically around this work. So we're going to do new learning, and we're going to focus, the part of the system that we're focusing on today is screening and hiring. This, by the way, this little wheel comes out of the handy-dandy playbook for recruitment and retention, available now on Amazon, shameless plug. You just search recruitment and retention and it comes up. It's pretty amazing. All this information and everything that we're talking about today is available in the Google Doc that I mentioned at the beginning and also in the playbook. The playbook has a ton of interview questions, interview categories, competencies that may be a good start for you all to kind of look from ideas from other E3 districts and other districts from across the country. All right. So, this is me a few years ago. Okay, about 25 years ago. This was me teaching in Prince George's County, Maryland. When I graduated from college, I graduated from a school in the Midwest, and I had no idea really how to find a job. I knew I wanted a couple options of where I was going to live. That's when I started my search for teaching jobs, but literally started to just look up districts, I think maybe even in the yellow pages. I'm not clear how I got all the address information, but you had to ask for an application, and the application came in the mail, and it was like a triplicate form, and you had to fill it out and mail it back in, and most of the time you never heard back anything. And it took a long time to do all that work. The world has obviously dramatically changed. And those of you that have been in HR for a while, you have really seen some change, I think, in the last few years, and it's a new world. So, as I think back to that time, I am thankful that we don't live in that time anymore in terms of attracting and recruiting people. And as I think about, too, my interview experience, it was I interviewed with lots of different principals, but I never got a sense of what I was getting into at all. And when I landed at William Wirt Middle School, teaching sixth grade, like everything in sixth grade, in a cubicle outside the building. I felt it was very isolating. I was overwhelmed. There was not a lot of support. So that interview process was not helpful. It was not helpful for me because I had no idea what I was signing up for. And I'm not sure, some days I would wake up in the morning and think, why am I doing this? What am I doing? But I kept persevering, and I'm thankful that I persevered in that because I would not be standing here today doing this work. So one of the things we're going to be obviously diving into is the interview process and how important it is. And as you can see, research is pretty clear that interviews are important. Structured interviews, the right kinds of interviews, effective interviews are helpful. Like, it's a helpful part of the process. We don't need to throw it all out because they just doesn't work. They do work. They are important. They're an important part of the process. But we've learned a lot about how to create interviews that are going to make an impact further down the line to make sure you have candidates that are actually going to turn out and do a good job in the classroom. So there's this great little article, and you have a link to it in the Google Doc. And if we had time, we would spend time reading this article because, as you know, I love new learning and reading. And so this is a great little article that has really helped some recent conversations in some of the E3 districts. And so these are going to be the rules that are going to sort of guide our conversation today in our fishbowl. So the first is avoid easy to practice questions. As you know, there's this little thing called Google, right? You can Google everything. You can look stuff up on YouTube, which, by the way, that's what Gen Zs would do. They probably wouldn't Google first. They would go to YouTube and look up what are all the interview questions I need to know for a teaching job. So they're not helpful. So we know over and over, we hear the story. You know this is if you've hired people. They sound great in the interview, and then they get to the actual classroom, and you're like, what? It's not the same person I talked to. Second is be wary of historical questions. So you say to yourself, well, we need to know what their experience is so we know where they're going. Yes, it's not that you don't ask historical questions like what they've done. But one of the things that to keep in mind is that so often people rely on their previous experience that may not be a fit for what is happening in your buildings. What is important actually is to go to more scenario-based, right? Can they solve a problem? Now, they might bring in their previous experience to help solve that problem, but the question is it going to work in your building? Is it going to work in your district? Evaluate whether they're forward thinking. Is this person going to be they might be a fit right this minute for this urgent need. And in this day and age of the teacher shortages, we are so desperate to just get people in classrooms for this minute. Oh, I need a science teacher right now. And this person, well, they didn't really teach. They've never really taught science. They never studied science. But you know what? They'll make do for right now. And then you know what happens. November rolls around and we're thinking, this is not working out. Or they leave because they're overwhelmed and not successful, right? And so then you're left with a mid-year hire, which is one of the worst times to hire. So the question is you have to think about is are the candidates themselves forward thinking? Are they going to be able to be successful? And whether you're thinking forward as well. The fifth is assessing a candidate's ability to learn, adapt, and innovate. Obviously, this is critical to our work as educators. I hear a lot of districts say, we want a growth-minded candidate. The question is, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that mean in your district to be growth-minded? So do they have the ability to learn, adapt, and innovate? And so you kind of have to need to assess that during your interview. Click. Okay, there we go. Number 6, avoid duplication. When you look over the questions that you're going to be asking candidates, and just to say, the days of having to ask the exact same questions to every single candidate, they're kind of gone. Now, you obviously need to comply with HR regulations and policies and that kind of thing and making sure that everyone is getting a fair interview. But you need to also look at the role that you're hiring for. I would tell you that a second grade teacher is very different than a 6th grade teacher, right? And what you're looking for in those positions. And so in terms of duplication, if you're asking a question at the beginning of the interview look at the questions toward the end. Are you asking the same exact thing? Or if you're asking the same exact thing, are you trying to get something different out of it? Really be thinking about what you're trying to get out of it. And then the last one is, this is really important. The interview is a two-way street. It is a buyer's market right now in the teacher labor market. That means teachers have a ton of choice. So this interview is like, it's critical. It's a critical time. You have face-to-face time in this case, or in a case you'll see in the second half of our time together, of a video interview, right? It's your time to sell. And it's your time to convince that person. If it's someone that you are really interested in pursuing, it's your time to really convince them. All right, any questions? Anyone want to add to this? Clarification? Okay. All right, let's get into it. We're going to have 2 rounds today in our Fishbowl. And the first round is we have Mr. Chris Geralds from MSD of Decatur. He's a principal. And then we have Miss Hannah Burke, who is from Marlborough County, South Carolina. And just to say, I want to give a shout out to Hannah. She just found out about this position, this opportunity a few days ago. And so she's getting up to speed. And by the way, she's role playing, although I think Chris is trying to convince her. So I know Marlboro folks, I know you're gonna, I know.
In action
Yeah,
right here.
yeah. So Chris has been a principal for a long time, right? Chris, you've been a principal for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. Yep. And you've been in Decatur. You've been in a couple other districts, but
This
also
is year 3 in Decatur.
Year 3 in Decatur. The Blue Academy, and Blue Academy is elementary school. Okay, what grades?
1 through 6.
1 through 6, great. And so Chris is obviously taking the role of the principal today. And on your tables, there actually are a couple documents that are guiding Chris's interview that you have privy to. The first is the interview selection criteria. So these are the competencies that Chris is using today to determine if Hannah is going to be a right fit. And then from these competencies, he developed questions to make sure that he's getting to the competencies. So Hannah, you're now a lead teacher, but today she's going to play the role of just a teacher that's going to come into a elementary position. So we won't mention the lead teacher, and we won't mention the fact that you're a lead teacher now, but we want everyone to know she's a lead teacher now. And they're going to role play the conversation or an interview. Before we start, I just want to give you a background so that you can also be taking notes and pretending you're doing the interview with Hannah. And I'd love to give you a little bit of background on MSD of Decatur Township. So I'm going to play a quick video for you all. And just a side note, this video is created by these 2 guys in the back. And myself, we're the video team that helped create this. So here we go. Whoops. Hold on a second. Oops, that's the wrong link. Get to the right.
So one word to describe Decatur with would be proud.
Innovative. Supportive.
Caring.
Joyous.
Invested.
Together.
Community.
Pride.
Decatur's a special place. It's a place where we put kids first and make a difference.
After school, I moved to the Indianapolis area and I was looking for jobs all summer.
I decided to become a teacher because when I was working in the science field, I didn't feel like I was making the change that I wanted to in the world.
I was teaching in a rural environment before. I felt complacent in my previous job. I'm getting a different experience than the experience I had before. The students are very diverse. I find it to be more rewarding.
So the moment I found an opening at Decatur, I went for it because I knew that's where I wanted to stay.
After meeting a lot of the staff in the community here in Decatur Township, I really fell in love with it.
Decatur Township Schools is located in the southwest part of Indianapolis. We're approximately just shy of 7,000 students. Decatur Township Schools is a huge impact, both not only on the children, but the families as well.
Decatur Township is very innovative.
We offer opportunities for our students, such as the small learning communities.
So the best thing about working in Decatur is that you're able to grow as an educator. You're able to take on leadership roles and be challenged if you want more.
You have virtually every opportunity available to you. If there's something you are curious in trying and implementing, you'll be encouraged and supported along the way.
And if you've got a question or a challenge you want to try, they're always there to support you and say, hey, go for it.
As a school district, we support teachers in a million different ways.
The staff here in Decatur Township has really surprised me and how much support and how much they're willing to help me out.
The thing I appreciate most about teaching in Decatur is the community of teachers who are supportive, the community of administrators who I know have my back and support me.
I always feel like there are a handful of people who can support me, and I see that throughout the district at every level.
And there's something in Decatur that they see that spark in people, and they know when to give them that extra little push or that extra little opening or challenge that will help them grow.
Teachers in Decatur Township are relentless. They're reflective practitioners. They're always looking for ways to be innovative and creative in the ways that they build relationships with our students and our families.
There's no better feeling in the world than when a student says, oh my gosh, I get that.
Our teachers become not only educators, but they become adult role models for not only our kids, but often their parents and families that need that support in the township.
That's what's really special, is we have students who need their teachers in their lives more than ever.
It's challenging, but I find it to be more rewarding teaching with students in Decatur.
Being able to provide that support for them and just being someone that they can look up to and come and talk to every day.
As a principal, I love to celebrate the good work that my teachers do by tweeting out what they are doing in their classrooms, what the students are doing, showcasing their work.
Indianapolis is the 5th most affordable place to live in the United States.
The starting salary for teachers in MSD Decatur Township is $42,500.
Our health benefits are amazing. For example, for our HSA insurance plan, teachers pay $0.
Need a retirement plan? Decatur Township offers teachers 4. In other words, you get all 4.
The median cost of homes in Decatur Township is $122,000. This means that teachers can afford to buy homes in this community.
Decatur Township is a great place to live and work.
What I love most about Indianapolis is that there's always something to do. I'm a big sports fan, a big music guy. There's always a concert or some sort of sporting event downtown.
Decatur Township is just so multicultural, from different nationalities to single parent homes to multifamily homes.
Decatur is a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. Decatur is home.
The best thing about working in Decatur is the children make you feel like a superhero. I love my Decatur family.
So now we are going to begin the interview process. And as the interview is going on, what I'd like for you to do is to be paying attention to the 7 rules that we talked about, as well as you can follow along right here in the guide and be making notes. I may, at some points, interrupt the conversation so that we can kind of freeze frame it and then have a conversation at your tables or as a large group. We're good? Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to step out of the way here, and I'm going to give it to you, Chris.
Okay. Good afternoon, Hannah. Welcome to Decatur Township. Very excited to have you here in our building to talk to you a little bit today and interview you for our open elementary position here. So start off, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing at this moment professionally.
Well, thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm Hannah Burks. I'm from South Carolina. We have recently moved to Decatur. My husband has accepted a position with the fire department that's actually on your campus. And so that was how I found out about your school. And I have 2 children. Mm-hmm. I have Tucker, who's 5, and Mary Hannah, who's 1. And I've been a pre-K teacher for the past 9 years. And I'm just looking to see what's here, what's in Decatur. I've saw your videos, and I'm really excited, about the support and the things that you have in place.
Well, wonderful. Welcome to Decatur Township, and we like to say that once you're here, you're family.
Yes.
So all of you have made the move from sunny South Carolina to
yes.
a little bit of a colder climate in Indianapolis, Indiana, but we're very warm with our Hoosier hospitality.
Now, we don't mind the snow in South Carolina, but everything closes down in South Carolina during the snow, so.
Our vehicles are made a little tougher.
Okay.
And so we can get through all of that very
Okay.
easily.
And I'm sure that y'all are really stocked with milk and bread.
Yes.
Okay, so no problems there. Good.
We've got you taken care of
Thank
there.
you.
And if you run out, your neighbor or somebody, they'll have plenty for you.
Good.
So when you think about the key qualities of being a highly effective elementary teacher, what are those key qualities and how do you know that you have them?
I would say key qualities of being a highly effective teacher would be, first of all, you have to be motivated. You have to know why you're doing what you do. What makes you get up and want to come to a classroom full of children every day. You have to be knowledgeable of your content. If I'm going in to teach, I have to be prepared. I have to plan. My lessons need to be engaging, but they have to be rigorous. So you can have fun through learning, but your rigor has to be there. You have to have those expectations for your students along with the expectation for yourself. You can't just say, oh, I'm not going to give it my all. No, the children that we teach, they deserve our all. So you have to go in, you have to be full in, you have to be prepared. You have to know your data because data drives your instruction. You have to have that ongoing assessment. We're not waiting for the next benchmark to tell me where my students are. I'm looking at my exit tickets. I'm looking at common assessments. I'm using that to fuel my days. I'm using that to drive my small group instruction. How do you know you have those qualities? Right now, within my current school that I'm still at, I have an accountability partner. We set goals together. We talk about what's working, what's not working. Also, during our PLCs, we look at our data and we look at, what did we do to get these results, but what did I do that, maybe I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And it's also, and I know this doesn't have to necessarily do with instruction, but it's in the way that the children make you feel. Like they make you feel like you must be doing a good job also because, they're like, Ms. Burks, I want to come back to your class. I want to come back. And even like I said, I was pre-K. So even like my 5th graders now, Ms. Burks, I want to come back to your class. So something had an impact. So, you look at your data, that tells you if you're doing well, that tells you if you need to change, but you also look at how the children look at you.
All right, I just want to freeze frame right there. So we're at the beginning of the interview. What, even just the question even before this, what did Chris do well at the very beginning of this interview process?
You made it personal. Just kind of joking around, setting the tone, making her feel comfortable.
Very key. People that are being interviewed are nervous. I know we all know that, but we forget it. We're also a little nervous, I think, sometimes when we're interviewing. But candidates are extremely nervous. I mean, Canna, you can attest to that right now.
Yes, I'm nervous.
And it's not even a real interview, right? Anything else that Chris did well at the beginning of the interview?
He made sure that he brought out the fact that in Decatur that they are a family, and that with her being there, that she was going to become a part of that family, and there were going to be people there to take care of her.
Very good. Over here, did you want to add?
I think that he listened well because he was able to respond to what she said about moving and what she might be looking for and tried to weave that into his selling of their district.
Great. Chris, can you tell us now a little bit about what you're thinking about? So after you've done the introduction and making her feel comfortable and joking a little bit, why did you ask that next question about what it takes to be a highly effective teacher? Why did you put that at that point in the interview?
Well, for one, I think it gives the candidate the opportunity to really share their mindset, and now I can start to kind of frame further, more questions around maybe the type of coaching that she would appreciate, or maybe the type of classroom that I may be, going to observe if she was hired into our building. And so you start to go ahead and start thinking about, if it's just a general elementary position, what grade level maybe, and then, you're always in the back of your mind, what teachers may be a part of that team and how would she fit in with that team. I heard a common theme that I was getting ready to go into. It was about motivated, and she had shared a couple times about how she was motivated. But my next question was, what motivates her? And I don't know if you can't see from that side, but when she started to talk about the joy of the students and the students coming back, there was another level of enthusiasm that she really started to get into, and that for a student first administrator, I was really buying into that part of it.
Awesome. All right, well, let's continue.
Okay, Hannah, so when you think about your specific classroom, coming from the pre-K, and you had mentioned the 5th grade classroom, what do you consider some of your strengths that you have inside your classroom, maybe that you've experienced at the pre-K and 5th grade level, and then how have those strengths made a positive impact on your students?
My strengths, or what I would consider to be my strengths, would be, building a positive classroom culture, to where all my students feel invited, they feel welcome, and they feel safe. They're coming to school, their parents are entrusting me with them every day, and so I need to make sure that, I set up an environment that is conducive for learning. And like I stated earlier, engaging the children in their learning. Not just to where it looks like nothing but fun, but that rigor is there also. The support. Whenever I was watching your videos, I heard the teachers just talking so much about the support, and I appreciate so much support as a classroom teacher. And the coaching. I'm willing to accept coaching and feedback and strategies and anything that will help me make my students more prepared for the world that we live in. And using my assessments to drive my small group instruction. I really value, just because a student comes to me at the beginning and they may be on a reading level A, doesn't mean that in December they should still be on a reading level A. I've got to be doing ongoing assessments. I've got to, not just wait for the next benchmark, not just wait and see what MAP data is telling me, but what are my students doing and how do I move them? So, the idea of having flexible grouping where my students are moving around and they're not just stuck in one place all year long.
So speaking of data, part of the job, and a big part of the job, is developing lesson plans that meets the needs of all your scholars. So for example, I want to give you a scenario and just share with me how you would go about meeting the needs. You have 3 ELL scholars in your classroom that are learning a grade level under their current grade. Explain to the committee how you will plan and effectively deliver curriculum to their level.
Well, first I'm going to assess them to determine what their level may be. I may have our SC Ready data, or I may have my PALS data, but I'm going to assess them to see what their level is. And then I'm going to determine what kind of content they need. So I know that, as I'm planning, that my lessons, whenever it's whole group, I'm going to give that model and I'm going to do some of that whole group instruction. But then I'm going to really narrow it down for them in small group. So my small group is going to be on their level. So whatever I'm doing, if let's say we're doing text passages, my passages are going to be for them on their level.
Sorry. Let me just interrupt right for 1 second. As you're listening to Hannah, what competencies are running through your head that you're looking for as you're listening?
Well, she opened with the assessment for learning, and really was trying to, solidify what levels they are at right there. And then, taking a look at the instructional practice. One of our big focuses at the school that I'm currently at is that teacher-led small group. And so she's hit it right there, and we've really been focusing on that. So now my next level would be to go deeper on what does her small group instruction look like.
Perfect. And so this is where the scenario is powerful. And I'm sure, Chris, maybe even just what you just said in terms of this is something that's very valuable. This is what we focus in at our school. I would even say that to her. This scenario is like real life. So let's pick it up right now, but exactly at this point. Keep going on just what we were just talking about.
Yeah, so Hannah, you mentioned within your small groups, pulling the students and meeting them at their level. One of the things that really makes the Blue Academy great is the collaboration between the grade level teachers. You may have students that are working 1 or 2 grade levels below or 1 or 2 grade levels above, and just know that the doors of the teachers, they're always open to go and work together there. So when you think about your small group instruction, can you walk me through just kind of the time frame of how long those stations are and that teacher-led small group would be?
So currently what I do is I base my small groups off of either like a common assessment that we've done recently or an exit ticket. So I know how I need to set up for the next day, because my groups are sometimes ever changing. So they usually last about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on what the children need. And during that time, I have my group, and then I also have other rotations that are going on. And my other rotations are differentiated depending on what that group needs also, so that when they're with me, they're getting what they need, but when they're without me, they are also receiving instruction that's at their level.
Wonderful. So the next scenario, let's fast forward. You welcome the school year. We're on our way, and it's September now. Your students recently completed one of our benchmarks. How would you approach reviewing that data, and then what action steps would you take after you found your specific scholar data?
And I've recently been learning more about our benchmark data and how to look at our benchmark data. At first, whenever you first get those scores back, you automatically want to look at your average percent correct. So, yeah, my children are at 75%. I'm doing great. But that's not the case. You've got to look at that projected proficiency. And then projected proficiency tells me another story. So it tells me, it breaks down, my METs, my exceeds, my approaches, and my not met. And so what I'm going to do with that data that I receive is I'm going to do an item analysis. So I'm going to look at those questions. I'm going to look to see, which students performed how on a question and which students did not. I'm going to look at the wording of that question. How was that question asked? Did it say central idea and I was using main idea? So what's the vocabulary within it? And then I'm going to think, does my questioning level in my classroom and on my assessments match benchmark? And so that's how I'm going to kind of review that data. And then I'm going to use it furthermore again to drive my small group instruction.
And what I would say is, making the move from South Carolina to Decatur Township, assessments are very similar. Obviously, reading and breaking down the data is critical. But one of the things that we are able to offer is the fact that we have a coach that is assigned to you that would be there with you through through the thick and thin. And then we also have, our new teacher, and not necessarily you've got some experience, but our new teachers to Decatur Township that we provide additional supports. And then also every week you have your STEP PLCs that you can also collaborate with your partners to break down some of that data.
Yes, that sounds awesome.
So switching gears here a little bit, what is your experience working in culturally and ethnically diverse classroom settings?
Well, like I said, I'm from South Carolina, and I grew up in a rural district. So I've gone to school with children of, from diverse cultures. I also, through my professional year, through my teaching career, I've mentored teachers who are from diverse cultures. We've had Jamaican teachers, and we've had teachers from Africa, and then we've had those students in our classroom. And so it's been positive. You learn them and they learn you. You learn, about their culture and they learn about the American culture. You learn to support them. You learn from them, because there's no one set way to really do education or to really teach. So it opens a door for a learning opportunity. My current school, I'd say we're around 95% African American students. So you just really try to get involved with the community. You try to get involved with the parents. You try to let them, let others know, that I'm here, I'm a support, and I want what's best for your child just like you do.
I love the fact that you shared the word involve. So speaking of involvement, how do you bring those cultures into your classroom, and how do you bring the families into your classroom to get them involved, just out, on a social, emotional, academic level? How do you involve the parents?
Okay. So I involve my parents. I invite them in. We have literacy night. We have math nights. We also, just do reading nights. Anytime that they can come in, we have a parent coordinator right now at our school. And so she invites parents in, and they can come and actually like sit with us for a day or volunteer. And so that's how we try to pull them in. I send home letters. We have performances and things throughout the year. Just let them know I'm here.
So just want to pause right there. So Chris, can you tell us what you were thinking? Like, why did you ask that question about cultural competency and then community involvement? Like, what was the context of that, and why did you bring that up?
So Decatur Township, we're a very diverse community, and from that standpoint, really kind of see, is the teaching style and her background coming in. Is it going to fit the makeup of what we have going on at Decatur Township? And so that's why I wanted to really see. But the other piece is that culture piece. How do you, when you take a look at our evaluation process, one of the pieces in there is that how do you bring real life scenarios and culture of the students into the classroom? So I wanted to pick her brain to see how she may be able to involve the kids as well as the parents. In our area of the city, a lot of parents are turned off of school. They're afraid to come back through those doors because maybe from their own experiences. And so how do we make it inviting and warm and a positive experience?
Okay. One thing I would just say is that this is an opportunity for you to say what you just said to me to her directly, so that she has a context, and it's bringing in that number 7, the allocate time for selling. Because it's excellent. Like, it's a good question. It just needs maybe a little bit more context for her to be able to understand your context a little bit more.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay, let's keep going. Let's, we have just about 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay. So Hannah, often in this job, you're working collaboratively to maintain positive relationships with coworkers. How will you develop these relationships? And if you can provide an example when you had to work with a colleague who may have been difficult to get along with, and how you handled those interactions.
I work to develop relationships by collaborating with my teachers. For a couple of years at our school, we were just one teacher per grade level, but then we were able to merge with another elementary school. And so I did not realize how much I needed that collaboration. I needed someone to bounce ideas off of. I needed someone to support me if I was trying a new strategy, or kind of push me out there to take that risk, when sometimes we just want to hold back because you don't want to get stuck doing things the way that they're supposed to be, or the way that they've always been done just because they've always been done that way. So, it's nice to have someone who will support you, who will have your back, who will coach you, who will call you on some things whenever you need to be called on them, and that's nice. The example of when I had to work with a difficult colleague, I would say it was my first year teaching, and it was the first day of our back to school professional development. And I walked in and I sat down, and if you know anything about me, I'm going to smile, whether I'm nervous, whether I'm happy, sad, sometimes angry. But I pretty much smile a lot. But this person looked at me and he said, "I don't know why you're smiling. You're not going to be smiling when your children come next week." And he was like, "Because this is how it's always been here. The children get sent to me. You're not going to be able to handle them." So it was just like my first day, first year teaching, and it was like a beat down from the beginning. And that was the mindset that he had. But I chose to still learn from him. I chose to respect him. I chose to listen whenever he was speaking. And our relationship did start to change because, no, I did not send my children to him. But it took time. It took having patience. It took listening, and it took learning and growing to respect one another.
Outstanding. And I often say a smile is contagious. And so just continue to spread that smile, because, and making that eye contact, because it will create a different type of culture. I would say, Hannah, when it comes to the collaboration piece, Here at Blue, we have 5 teachers per grade level.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of teamwork support there where you're bouncing ideas. And a lot of our staff members, they get their work early, they stay late, and I often say at the end of the day, the main office is like a coffee shop because everybody's in there just celebrating the successes that we've had during a day. So you would not be on an island. You would have plenty of support in that collaboration piece. So wonderful. So really quickly, as we look to wrap up, our interview here, what kind of supervisor brings out the peak performance in Hannah?
The kind of supervisor that brings out the peak performance in me is someone who sees my potential, even when I don't. Sometimes, we think, well, maybe I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, or maybe, I kind of want to step out into a different role. I kind of want to be a mentor teacher, but I'm not sure. And they see my potential, even when I don't. And they push me to go beyond anything that I could set up or imagine for myself. And they give you leadership opportunities. They involve you in their thinking, and they try to release things on you. And whenever you're like, I'm not sure if I can do that, they have that support. And you know that no matter what, no matter at the end of the day, if everything went great or if it was one of those days where you felt like everything fell apart, they're going to be there to support you, and they're going to be there to tell you, tomorrow's another day. Wake up, come in hard, and on your biography that I was reading, you talked about bringing the energy. So that kind of bring the energy, you've got this, you can do this. They're a focused person. They know why they're doing what they're doing, and it makes you want to mimic that same thing. They have a focus, and it's the children. People often talk about, what's your why? And sometimes I turn it into, why not? Why can't the children that I'm with every day grow up and be anything they want to be? Why set limitations? And so that person makes you want to just climb mountains and do anything that you can do for the children that you see every single day.
Wonderful. I often say, bringing the energy is key. We've got 180 days with our kiddos. So that's like 180 basketball games. And so every day we've got to be on and bringing it to make sure that we're growing our students. It has been great chatting with you. I want to welcome you to Decatur Township and look forward to you becoming part of the MSD Decatur Township family. And being new here, and it's kind of the wintertime right now, but Carson Park, they've got a lot of activities over there. There's a splash pad there in the summer, so make sure you get those kiddos there.
Yes.
And you know what? I look forward to having your kids here at Blue, and you never know, you probably will be here teaching them. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right. Good job.
All right. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, this is hard, right? It's doing a live interview in front of cameras and a whole room full of people. So kudos to you all. So what I'd like for you to do now, just at your tables, I'd like for you to have a conversation, keeping these 7 rules in mind. What did Chris do well? Like what came out strong? What would be areas that you would coach him in to say, you know what there was an opportunity for this, think about this. Have a conversation at your tables. Can I get your attention, please? I know we could keep talking about this for a long time. Is there someone that's willing to share what Chris did well out of these 7 that you felt like was really strong, or just some comments about the interview?
We felt that Chris did a really good job in selling his school, not duplicating questions, and listening intently to the responses that Hannah was giving, and being able to pull together a lot of information out of that.
I heard some good comments right here. I'm going to pick on you. I overheard your comment. Would you mind repeating what you were just sharing with the group here?
I liked how you didn't sound really contrived. Your questions, you really listened to her answers, and then you formed your questions using her answers, and so the interview really flowed whereas sometimes it can seem very start-stop. And so I like that. It really seemed like you were really listening to her.
Right, it's a conversation. Yes, Jennifer.
If I may add on to your comment, what we talked about is how sometimes when we interview, we more or less like ask the question, we're taking notes, and the person or the person being interviewed does all the talking. But here, there was literally a conversation back and forth. I said all they were missing was like a cup of coffee. Like you are almost like having like a nice little coffee chat, which I think probably helped her feel more comfortable and allows her to be able to maybe share more information that she may not have traditionally done, just maybe because of being nervous, you just don't think about it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Of course, we gotta get Hannah supervisor, right?
Love you, Hannah. But anyway,
love her more. Sorry. No,
I like the fact that his questions went to his need of his schools. He was specific around making sure he selected questions that connected her to say how she would fit into his school. Those were wonderful questions that he connected the fact of what we needed in our school. This is what our teachers do, and how do you handle that?
Excellent, excellent. Is there something that you would coach Chris on? Okay.
That's my assistant principal. Let her have it. How about this one?
She just said you were fantastic. That's all she said. So at the beginning, I think you asked the question about highly effective teachers and those kind of traits and how you know you're good at that. And I think, Hannah, you talked quite a bit about small group instruction and using assessment data to drive that. I wonder if it might have been helpful to just ask for one specific example. You know, as a reading teacher, you noticed that this student was struggling in this skill. What was the strategy that you employed in that small group to help that student advance in that skill?
Anyone else? One more person? All right. Well, Chris, thank you. Hannah, thank you. Again, you did a fabulous job. It's all recorded. We can go review it later. But we thank you. This has been a very helpful conversation. All right, let's go to round two. All right, round two, video interviewing. So the scenario for this is that we had some candidates who did some interviews. Is Tia in the room? There we are. All right. Okay. So in a few moments, you're going to see this awesome teacher from Gainesville, Texas. She was brave enough to do a video interview for the Colonial team. Again, like Hannah, pretending that she was applying to Colonial. So thank you. Thank you for your time in doing that. In fact, Hannah did such a great job on the video interview that the Colonial team is now using it as an example to teach the principals on how to do video interviewing. So, good job. So we're going to hear from Hannah in a little bit, from Tia, from Tia about her experience doing it as a candidate. But we're first going to watch a team, a hiring team, they've received 3 video interviews. So candidates, what they've done, and Katie will explain this, they've gone on a platform, done a video interview, asynchronous, and so that can be watched at any time. They're using a platform called SparkHire. There's no promotion about SparkHire here. There are a ton of video platforms out there that may be best for your district. But just to say, it is a powerful tool and a major trend that we're seeing in the videos in the interview space. So, but before we begin, I'd love to introduce you to the Colonial School District, of course, by showing you a video.
Here are the top 5 reasons
why you belong in the power of way.
Our professional growth opportunities go beyond the ordinary.
You can expect to learn from other Colonial teachers,
have opportunities for coaching, and so much more.
Support looks like a lot of different things in Colonial.
From building coaches to onboarding teams, we have what you need to be successful.
You won't find support like this anywhere else.
We go way beyond the traditional pathways for leadership. Teachers in Colonial can grow in programs like STEP, Aspiring Leaders Academy, and much more.
We value belonging.
We stay because of the lifelong relationships we've created.
We stay because this is home.
Because this is home. From preschool to high school, we change futures.
We change futures.
Join us.
Join us in this important life-changing work.
See why you
Belong.
belong in the power of we.
In the power of we.
You belong in the power of we.
One of the things I've been hearing from hiring managers is they can get through reviewing 5 or 6 interviews within 30 minutes, which is a lot more time effective than having to schedule an interview, get the person, maybe not even somebody that's going to work out. You know those interviews where you bring someone in and then within the first 5 minutes you're like, this is not working out, but you have to sit through the whole interview. So it's a great tool, and Colonial will explain to you how they're using it and how they're thinking about video interviewing. All right, Katie.
So hi, my name is Katie Strauss. I do recruitment and new teacher mentoring for Colonial. We are just starting to use Spark Hire, so you're really seeing a true pilot experience here. Going back to the original, what Jill had up about the 7 traits of good interviewing, in a video interview, it's obviously harder to sell the district. However, when a candidate accepts the offer to interview, to do the Spark Hire, they can watch the 5 reasons video. They also see an intro video and an outro video. So they're getting an opportunity to have a little bit more of a personalized experience. Also during the interview, I'm asking the question in video and then they're responding in video form, just to kind of set it up a little bit. We are using the video platform for our early hiring. We do a lot of early hiring in Colonial, which means that we are hiring for the district, not for a specific school. So when you're looking at the team here, this team is made up of teachers and principals and student advisor that are in different buildings so that we can get a full feel for the district when we're hiring. What we're deciding today is if these candidates would be invited in for a demo lesson. So right now we're just determining, are these candidates that we want to see come into our schools and do a demo lesson? And then that demo lesson would be followed up with more intense interview questions where we can dig a little bit deeper. So this is not replacing an interview or a traditional interview, but it is replacing kind of the paper screening so that we can maximize the time with candidates when they're in our buildings. So just give a little context. Today we are watching 3 videos. For the sake of time, we're only going to watch the first 2 questions of each video. But we might talk like we watched all of them, just to set it up a little bit.
Katie, so would you mind introducing your team? And I'll introduce you because I know you the best of this team. Katie and I have been doing a ton of work together when it comes to recruitment and retention. Katie's doing an outstanding job in Colonial School District. She is a first in her position. She's a teacher leader for recruitment and new teacher mentoring. She's quite a long title. She has an amazing connection with new hires and new teachers that are coming into their buildings. And it's been a really, really powerful role. It's also, Katie's been instrumental in our working group, in the recruitment and retention working group, and just really bringing that really important teacher perspective to the table because we forget when we're so busy in building our recruitment campaigns and that kind of thing. So Katie has been an invaluable resource. And what I love about the Colonial team too is that they are always trying new things. They try things, sometimes it doesn't work, but they keep going, they keep trying new things. So this is one of the new things and you all get to witness this new thing. All right, Katie, you want to introduce your team?
Yes, okay. So here, Jess Hitchens, she is a reading interventionist at Wilmington Manor. Jennifer Alexander is a principal at Pleasantville Elementary School. Lindsay DeMedio is at Wilmington Manor, she's the principal there. And then Megan Noel is a student advisor, which is kind of like a assistant principal in training at McCullough Middle School. All right.
Okay, great. Okay.
All right, so we're going to get started with TIAs to begin with.
So you want me to just tell me when to play? All right, play 1 and 2. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
oh.
That's fine.
So the rubric that they're using is in that Google Doc. So if you go to the Google Doc on your phones, it is called rubric.
It's, yeah.
Halfway in round 2, you'll see it. Open that up. You will see the rubric that is sitting in front of them right now and what they're looking for as they look through these candidates. Katie, can you tell us what the goal of this meeting is that you're having?
Yeah, so ultimately the goal is to determine who we want to see come in for a demo lesson. So what we're doing right now is just kind of giving them, are they below average, average, or above average? We're really not getting into any nitty-gritties because you're going to see that the questions are not super deep. We're just kind of getting a sense of a personality, what they're like, what their experience has been like. It's kind of replacing a traditional paper screen. We're getting a little bit more personalized view. So as a team, we are determining, do we want to see these people come in for a demo lesson in our buildings?
And just to say, the shift towards a demo lesson is a shift even for Colonial. Most districts in America do not do demo lessons, which I would say is something to really, really think twice about, because we know we are seeing over and over teachers coming into our buildings who are not working out. They do great in the interview, but then they get into the classrooms and things are not working out. Let's begin.
Yeah, let's begin.
I would say that professional and personal experiences led to apply to Colonial School District. Professionally, I have over 15 years of teaching experience in several school districts similar in demographics to Colonial. The schools I've taught at, they've had a diverse student population and backgrounds that were similar to my own. Not only have these school districts experienced a dramatic change in their student background, but those student needs changed as well. So like Colonial, these districts or schools that I taught at within those districts had to go through essentially a period of transition, and they're probably continuing to go through these transitions because in education, things are always changing. But those transitions could have been local mandates or state mandates because we all have people that we answer to as far as, schools and districts. And like Colonial, within those districts that I worked for, we needed to see some progress, improvement in educators and students. And I know what that means to need to see some progress. Personally, I've always been fully invested in the districts that I've worked for. Not only did I educate the students at the school I was assigned at, but my children were educated within the district, sometimes at the schools where I worked at. I feel that I've always been a pretty multifaceted stakeholder as far as being a parent, being an educator, being a part of the community, and living and working in the district. I would say that those professional and personal experiences led me to apply to Colonial School District.
Question 2 is, tell me something about yourself that is not on your resume.
This question was actually a pretty hard question. Tell me something about yourself not on your resume. There's actually a lot of things that are not on my resume, but I'll try to limit it to one, maybe 2 things. But I would say first and foremost that's not on my resume is if I hadn't become a teacher, I probably would have become a veterinarian. I really have a love of animals, especially dogs, and we have 3 of them in our house. It's kind of like we have a small, medium, and a large dog. In addition to dogs, we also have a ferret and a chinchilla, which when people come over, they're like, there's a lot going on in this house. And which kind of leads me to my second thing is that I have a very large family. And I know people talk a lot about their family, but me and my husband, we have 7 kids. They range from 23 down to 3. And our oldest 2 are 23 and 21 respectively. Our oldest is a boy, and after him, there's nothing but girls. So, he's got a lot on his shoulders. But our oldest 2 are out in the world adulting. And when those 2 essentially left the nest and they've kind of gotten established and we're pretty confident that they're going to do well on their own. Me and my husband actually decided to become foster parents, and because we feel that we're pretty decent parents, and becoming foster parents was essentially another way for us to give back. Neither one of us, we didn't have horrible childhood by any means, but we were from families that struggled a little bit, and so we can identify with the needs of someone struggling, and they might need a little bit of help now and then. So.
All right, so let's take a couple minutes just to write down our notes, or just a couple seconds.
Going straight to the next one.
We're gonna debrief first. So what did you guys think of Tia's video?
So first and foremost, I think that she gave really involved, detailed examples throughout both of the videos. So you really got a sense of her experience. You could really start to see her personality shine through in that second question, because she was really obviously passionate about her family and her pets.
Her face lit up a lot more as soon as she started talking in the second question.
I would definitely agree. She seemed very excited, very passionate to talk about her pets, her family. I also think that in her excitement, talking about her family, her language changed to be a little bit more casual as well. So just thinking about our rubric, when we think about scoring, she would probably fall between a 2 and a 3, at least on my rubric.
I gave her 2.75.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Let's do that. All right, so the next video we're gonna watch is. All right, perfect. So this is the Bill's video. We're just gonna watch the first 2 questions again, and then.
Question 1, what experiences have you had that have brought you to apply to Colonial? And number 2 is, tell me something about yourself that is not on your resume. Yeah. Okay.
Yo, it's your boy, the Bill Tork. I'm here to crush this interview like a can of soda. So, what brought me to be, what was the question again? What brought me to apply to Colonial? Well, ain't nothing better than summers off, baby. Work during the year, and then you get to go to Dewey in the summertime. My experience with kids, babysit my little sister all the time. So, that's what got me here, and I applied. I like the summers off. I like the Christmas breaks. You guys have professional development. Yeah, I'm going to take off for that. But that's going to be another day off. You know what I'm saying? But that's what got me here to Colonial. I'm really excited to have this interview. So the question is, tell you guys something that's not on my resume. Well, as you can see, I'm gorgeous, handsome man. So you can't really talk about that in the resume. But I make people laugh. I'm a funny guy, great personality. I think that should be it, right? Yeah. I got a nice car, fast. Yeah, that's about it. Gorgeous.
Okay, so let's take a minute and write down our notes. Okay. Who wants to start?
I'll start. While he was very enthusiastic, he did not refer to any applicable skills or strengths. Babysitting his sisters, I don't know, a top quality qualification that would prepare him for this position.
If I can add as well, like just thinking about and looking at the rubric, I'm just thinking this might be something we want to look at, because he's actually receiving maybe higher scores than he should based on where he did smile and have a friendly demeanor. He was in an appropriate space. So that might be something we might want to think about when looking at our rubric.
And just to give everyone some context, this is a paraprofessional at my building, and he was told to kind of put on a show for us. He is a comedian, so he totally embraced this process.
So we might have to kind of override the rubric here.
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously the general presence, technically he was in an appropriate space, but then obviously if you go back to language,
Yeah.
that was not
Got a little
appropriate.
wild.
And he was wearing a hoodie.
And he should really be attending professional development.
Yes, that's what's been a concerning comment.
Yes.
So what are we gonna give him?
I'm gonna give him a 1.5.
All right. All right, so next we have Caitlin. And just a side note here, Caitlin was also coach for this video. She is a coach at our school district, but I asked her to act a certain way during the video, so just to give, she's here at the conference, so if you see her, this is not actually how she acts.
So when I was thinking of applying to the Colonial School District, thinking about my experience, I was a middle school teacher for the past 7 years. And also during that time, I taught some of the summer school programs. As a middle school teacher, I taught in the special program for students that were significantly below grade level in reading and math. We taught a specialized research-based curriculum called Language Live, where students were able to kind of fill some of those holes that they were missing, some of those reading foundational skills that they were missing, while also providing them some direct, explicit instruction on comprehension, vocabulary, writing. So that's a little bit about my middle school position. And throughout summer school, I also worked middle school summer school, elementary summer school, and that pretty much highlights my experience.
Okay, tell me something that's not on your resume.
Something that is not on my resume. Let me see. Something not on my resume. I guess something I could talk about is that I was originally born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. When I tell people that, they tend to not believe me because I have been living in Delaware for the past 15 years. But I have moved multiple times throughout my childhood, and our parents kind of encouraged us to explore and travel on our own. I've had a brother that lived out in Dutch Harbor, Alaska. My older brother was in the Navy and lived everywhere from Italy to Hawaii to Virginia Beach. So I think, that's not really on my resume, but I would say that I really enjoy traveling. I've never really ever been committed to one place, so I enjoy change. I enjoy traveling and getting out and experiencing different cultures and different places.
Okay, so let's write down a couple notes. Who wants to kick it off?
I could kick it off. So in looking at the first question, I thought she gave some very well constructed responses that talked very specific about her experiences, specific curriculum she used, and the types of programs she worked in.
But I'm concerned with her comment about not being committed to one place. When we talk about teacher retention, are we gonna invest in someone and then to have them turn around and leave? That's a serious concern.
I think we do have to be mindful about that question though, because she did state that she'd been at the same middle school and taught the summer school program for that school as well. So that could just be her personal life and not so much her professional life.
I also was thinking as well, like she did seem interested and enthusiastic, but just a little bit about her being prepared. She was very noticeable when she started to shuffle a little deeper and tap her hands, and that was just reason to pause a little bit for me and just raised a little bit of concern.
What would you rate her?
I think I would give her a 2.5 for that. I mean, the preparedness part is what really kind of knocks her down.
So now that we've seen all three, we've rated all three, which ones do we want to see come in for a demo lesson? We could ask all of them to come in. We could ask none of them. What do you guys think would be best?
I think Caitlin's experience, aside from the second question, intrigues me to see her actually in action.
Okay.
And Tia.
Yeah,
Tia for sure. I love that she said that she was a multifaceted stakeholder. We want our community in our schools.
Yeah. And I think her experience, she would fit really well into it. And what about Mr. T? Yeah. Okay, so there we go.
All right, so Katie, tell us what the next step is in this process. What literally happens at this point?
So at this point, I would reach out to the candidates and say, you're going to be coming in for a demo lesson. I would provide them with what class they would be in, the standard that they would be expected to teach. There's expected to give a 30-minute demo lesson. So that would be the next step for these candidates.
All right, let's give this hiring team a round of applause. All right, before we end today, I just want to have a moment with Tia. So thank you again for being vulnerable. And clearly you rose to the top. So Tia, tell us about your experience in the interview process. You're an experienced teacher. You've been teaching for over 15 years. You're a lead teacher. Tell us a bit about what this experience was like for you.
Well, I took your advice that you said when you were look at it like you're actually applying for the job. So I got on the website and I looked up everything and looked at your different schools and your mission statements. And I got on your state website and I had looked at your scores. So I kind of knew that y'all were a district that was trying to implement some change. And so I watched the video links, The Power of We, that one about the 5 top reasons. And then I really kind of just put myself in the mindset of if I was moving with my family, relocating there, what was the things that I would be looking for in both aspects, professionally and personally. And so I just went from there. I was a little apprehensive about the video part, and I think it might be because I'm an older, seasoned teacher, and video, we're like, ooh, video. And it made me a little anxious initially. And I didn't know the questions. That kind of threw, I was like, man, I don't know the questions. But actually when I got on it and there was an introduction video to tell you how to set everything up, and then when you were presented with the questions, you got that wait time, to think about it before you actually recorded, and you got 2 takes. So I was like, oh, well that would give me time, because I like to write things down and read it and then kind of think about it and process it and then go from there. So.
Great. Do you have a question for Tia?
I have a question.
Great.
So Tia, in the demo videos, they give you a 2-minute time slot. Did you feel either pressured to fill the 2 minutes, or 2 minutes was just not enough time?
After I did the first question was the hardest. I don't know why. It's maybe because it was it's 2 minutes. Because I thought about that. Is 2 minutes not a long enough time? But it was actually adequate enough time. I thought 2 minutes, because even with some of the subsequent questions that came after, I could have said more, but initially wrapping it all up in that first 2 minutes kind of made me had to be a really concise and succinct with what I had to say as far as getting my thought process together. So then I couldn't blubber on about and get off topic. So I thought that the recording time for the answer to the question was ample.
Great. Jennifer.
I wanted to ask, did you find yourself needing to use both takes, or did you maybe the first time you used both takes, and then as you felt more comfortable, you didn't need both takes? Because I'm just to clarify, if you don't select the first take and then you get the second take,
it's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing. Yes. So just wanted to kind of put that out there.
On each question, I used both takes, because the first one I used as kind of like a practice. And so I'd hear the question, I'd kind of go through the answer on the first take, and then like the second take, it was like I was able to clean everything up. So I liked both takes. And then one, no, well, I don't want to. Well, one of them I used for family, and I had to use
But if that was your second
Yeah.
take, that would have been it.
That would've-
an opportunity to fix anything that you needed to.
Awesome. All right. I'm curious from a principal's perspective, because you all spend a lot of time hiring. What do you think about the video? What do you think about this process that you all are starting to engage in Colonial? And how do you think it's going to be different for you this coming year using video interviewing?
So I can start with, I am very excited about this process because like you said earlier, you get into the first and second question sometimes with a candidate and you're like, there's no way I have any interest in having this person come, but yet you still have to sit through the 30-minute interview process. So that is a time sucker. For this, it's like you at least have that feeling.
I just want to say real quick, when we did this last year, we would do an interview and then we go right into a demo lesson. So the interview, no matter how it went, was holding absolutely no weight in the end because they were going on to that demo lesson no matter what. They had prepared for it. We were going to see it happen. But this actually gives us the opportunity to vet that first. Sorry, Dan.
I was just going to add on, as a person who's actually experienced both sides of this process, I also participated in an interview very recently using this platform. I feel as a principal, we spend so much time like paper screening and being able to, we talk about relationships and getting to know people, like although the video technically is just the person it's not like a dialogue technically back and forth, but it allows you to see their personality. It allows you to see, just to get to know a little bit more than what can show up on a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. And so that piece alone, I think, speaks volumes.
So I hope today has been helpful. We could probably talk for hours more, although it is Saturday afternoon. But we could. The interview process it's very deep. I mean, we could do a whole session just on body language. That's a whole nother thing, language that's used. So what I would encourage you to do as districts is to take some time to think about what you've seen today. Think about competencies. What are you looking for? How are all these competencies aligned to interview questions that your principals are doing? Next week in Marlborough County, I'm going to be spending a second session with their principals, where literally the principals are coming up with they've developed the competencies and now they're aligning the questions to it. They're creating a question bank for their district, and so that they have something to go on. Not all principals want to use the same questions, but they all want to use the same competencies, right? So I hope this has been helpful for you all today, and I just want to say thank you, and thank you to the hiring team. Really appreciate your time and your vulnerability, being in front of cameras and lights in a room full of people. Thank you, Tia. Really appreciate your time. And thank you to Chris and Hannah as well. So thanks so much, and have a great afternoon.